Hi everyone, my name is Stas, and today I'm going to tell you about the plot of the 2012 film titled Compliance, which tells a chilling story based on true events.
Style of panties does she have?
Let's see. I guess cotton bikini.
The plot of the film begins with a woman named Sandra, who is the manager of a small restaurant. She announces a big day, a mystery shopper is coming. They all need to work at 100%, because a mystery shopper from the Quality Control Service will be visiting their establishment. In addition to that, she also points out that someone forgot to close the freezer yesterday, which led to a huge amount of food supplies being spoiled. After a while, a girl named Becky shares her feelings with the shift manager. She feels like Sandra thinks she's to blame for the incident with the freezer. Marty decides to support and comfort her. She tells Becky that in fact all the suspicions are falling on a guy named Kevin. Suddenly, Sandra herself appears and shares some good news. Very soon, her boyfriend will propose to her. A hand in marriage. Marty and Betty pretend to be happy for her and congratulate the woman, but once the manager leaves their company, they start laughing. Meanwhile, Sandra decides to check on the security guard named Harold, who needs to leave work for some important matters. Next, her future husband, a man named Van, calls her on the phone. He asks Sandra if he can spend some time with friends and drinks. Sandra replies that he shouldn't ask about that. However, to avoid any issues, the woman asks not to drink too much. Meanwhile, Betty, Kevin, and Connie are discussing the new work schedule. Suddenly, the phone rings in the restaurant. Sandra picks up the phone. The stranger introduces himself as a police officer. To be more precise, Officer Daniels. He informs her that the regional manager of the company recently contacted him with a request to look into a theft that occurred at their establishment. Next, the officer clarifies the details of the incident. One of the employees stole money from a client. The officer describes the approximate features of the employee, which match Becky's characteristics. As soon as Sandra suggests that it might be the young blonde, the officer quickly reacts and confirms that it was indeed Becky who stole the money.
Blonde.
Becky?
Becky. Yeah, we have her name is Rebecca, that's right, Becky.
The man then informs Sandra that the girl is an important element in a large and serious investigation. Sandra calls Betty over and hands her the phone so she can talk to the police officer personally. The girl naturally denies all the accusations. Despite this, the man starts conducting a remote search using Sandra's hands. The manager checks all the pockets, but they couldn't find any of the necessary evidence. After that, the woman checks her bag, despite the fact that she had absolutely no right to do so. Sandra warns Becky that if she happens to find the stolen money on her, the girl can say goodbye to her job. Once and for all, despite the threats, Sandra still finds nothing. After that, the woman turns to the officer and says that this whole situation is probably some kind of mistake. Becky is clearly not guilty. These arguments had no effect on the police officer. He asks not to let the suspect leave the room, at least until the police arrive at the restaurant. Sandra unquestioningly follows the stranger's instructions and doesn't doubt his words at all. After a while, the officer orders Sandra to conduct another, more thorough search of the girl. In response, the woman states that she will not get involved in such matters. Then the officer starts to blackmail her and scare her with legal proceedings, which will bring her a lot of trouble. He also states that Becky will be arrested anyway. The officer starts to make Sandra tell her subordinate to conduct the search procedure right now. Otherwise, the police will come, and she will spend a few days in the station. At first, Becky doesn't want to agree, believing she is innocent, but the boss convinces the girl and she decides to comply. At the same time, Becky demands that someone else be present in the room during the search. The officer agrees to the condition.
Okay.
Okay, you want me to search you, or do you want me to?
Search.
Okay, search. So we'll just do that really quickly.
And Sandra goes to get Marty. At this moment, Becky continues to talk to the stranger on the phone. The conversation starts to smoothly shift to the girl's older brother, who had serious legal troubles. The girl provides all the information she has about her brother and then adds that she hasn't seen him in a long time and doesn't know what exactly he's up to at the moment. When Sandra and Marty return, the search procedure begins. The girl almost completely undresses. Sandra checks all the clothes and reports. The officer says that she found nothing. Then he asks to check Becky's underwear.
He wants you to take off your underwear.
He insists that thieves often use underwear and bras with hidden pockets. Sandra once again trusts the officer and asks the girl to take off all her remaining clothes. After a while, the suspect takes off her underwear, but Sandra doesn't find anything in it. Then the officer asks Sandra to gather all of Becky's clothes into a bag and take them to her car. After all, the woman might have just been careless and could have missed something. Daniels adds that when the police arrive on the scene, they will definitely check everything themselves. Marty finds the whole process suspicious, so Sandra asks the officer if she can just leave the clothes in the office. Becky could destroy evidence and avoid punishment if she keeps the clothes. Sandra starts to doubt her actions, and when Daniels realizes this, he tells her the police are searching Becky's house as her older brother is in drug dealing and the girl could be involved. They hope Sandra will help find the money and get Becky to confess. Sandra, having set aside all her doubts again, takes Becky's clothes to the car and then returns to the office. Then Daniels informs that the police are currently searching Becky's house, so they will arrive at the restaurant later than planned. What was planned? The man then asked the manager if she has a responsible employee who can keep an eye on Becky, since Sandra herself needs to continue her work in the dining area. After a while, the woman brings Kevin into the back room, and he immediately starts defending Becky, convincing the manager that the girl couldn't have stolen the money. He also claims that he knows her brother personally, who has never been involved in dealing of something illegal. Refusing to listen to Kevin's opinion, she orders him to keep an eye on Becky till the police arrive at the restaurant. After a while, Daniels will ask the guy to take the apron off the girl to conduct a search. As soon as Becky tells her friend that he already asked Sandra to do this, Kevin starts to suspect that something is off. The guy steps out of the office and explains to the manager that Becky is his friend, and he's not going to do anything humiliating to her. Sandra returns to the office and asks the officer what happened in her absence, and then Daniels explains that Kevin is not suitable for continuing their cooperation. Then he reprimands the woman for sharing confidential information with Kevin. After that, he gives her a choice: to keep an eye on the girl herself or to find someone reliable who can sit with her. Sandra calls her fiancé and asks him to come to the restaurant urgently. A few minutes later, Van appears at the entrance of the establishment and agrees to keep an eye on Becky. As soon as Sandra leaves, the officer orders Van to make the girl take off her apron, after which he must conduct a thorough and deep search.
He says you gotta take off the apron.
What?
Oh, and Evan.
If she won't take it off, I'm gonna need you to take it from her.
Van replies that he can't make her do that, and then the police ask the man to hand over Becky's phone. Daniels manages to convince the girl to let Van search her. He even makes her stand in different poses and jump while naked, claiming that this is how he checks for contraband.
Wait, I'm gonna need you to have her do jumping jacks to try and shake it out.
Sandra returns to the office, and Betty insists the officer's actions are illogical. Sandra is too busy to listen. When she leaves the office again, Daniels is already demanding that Van take and spank Becky as punishment for her disobedience. Right after that, the officer uses threats to force the girl to get closer to Van. After a while, Sandra returns, and the officer asks her to find someone else to watch the girl. Shocked, Van just leaves, feeling guilty for allowing the officer to do that. Sandra delegates the matter to Harold, who has just returned to the restaurant. But as soon as Officer Daniels orders him to take the apron off Becky, it sends him into a rage. Sandra immediately calls the regional manager after Harold tells her about the officer's inappropriate orders. Suddenly, the manager informs her that no one from the police has contacted him.
You haven't been talking to Officer Daniels on the other line?
I haven't talked to anybody today. You're the first person I've talked to. Is everything okay?
Sandra realizes that she was not speaking to an officer, but to a fraud. After a while, the police arrive and start collecting evidence. Detectives investigate. Camera footage helps. Later, it turns out that several similar cases have been recorded, and soon they manage to track down Daniels, who works in a regular office and is a family man. He is soon taken into custody, and Betty suggests filing a lawsuit against the boss, but Sandra's lawyer recommends suing the entire restaurant chain instead. Sandra herself was left without a job, and her relationship with Van was over. Occasionally, the woman tried to justify her behavior, but it didn't work out at all, and it seemed to be getting only worse. It turns out that in almost 30 states in the US, there have been over 70 similar incidents in recent years. So, what do we have here? It's a very engaging thriller that depicts a degrading society unable to think clearly and reason logically. All it took was one phone call to the police to clarify about Officer Daniels. At the time of this Summaries release, this film has a rating of 6.4 on IMDB. How would you rate this film? Be sure to let us know in the comments. And that brings us to the end of our video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you found it interesting, then be sure to support this video with a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our new episodes. Well, this was Stars, who is already preparing a new summary for you. Stay healthy, watch only good movies, and play only good games. Good luck to everyone, and goodbye.